If we look at this shape here, that's the four rounded arrows flowing in a circle, it looks a little bit complicated at first, but actually it's just a combination of pretty simple operations with the making some circles, doing some rotations, using the Pathfinder palette to subtract one circle from another. So that's what we're going to show here. You can see that we'll take a big circle, we'll subtract another circle from it to get rid of the center to make the donut. We will make some triangles for these arrowheads, and then we'll also subtract out some triangles from the donut to create these gaps between the head of one arrow and the tail of the next. Then here the circle in the background is just a gray circle, and the arrows themselves are semi-transparent. So let's get started making our basic elements. I'm going to hold down, grab the ellipse tool to make my first circle. I'm going to hold down Shift to constrain it so that it will be a circle instead of an ellipse. Okay, I'm going to take this circle, I want to make the other circle for the center that I'll eventually cut out. To do that, I'm just going to do copy and paste in front. That's Command F on the Mac and Control F on the PC. You can see paste in front. That'll put my new copy right on top of the original, centered exactly. That's what I want. Now I want to resize that inner circle. I'm going to hold down Shift to make sure it's constrained to be a circle. I'm also going to hold down Option on the Mac or Alt on the PC to have that resizing happen around the center. So let go when I feel like I've got a good size there. So that should be decent to make my donut. Now I need a triangle for the arrowheads. So I'm going to go to my polygon tool. As I start to form it, if there's too many sides to your polygon, while you're still holding the mouse down and dragging, you use the up and down arrows to increase or decrease the number of sides. We'll go all the way down till we get a triangle. I'll hold down Shift to constrain it so that it's aligned with the axes. Now I'll just switch to my regular direct select tool, rotate this around, holding down Shift to again make sure the bottom's aligned, and then I'm just going to make this a little shallower to make it look a little bit more like an arrowhead. So now I want to put this on top of my what'll be my donut and align it. I think I'm going to align it such that, let me just move it around here, maybe make it so that the center of the triangle is aligned with the center of the circle when I get that construction guide up there. All right, so that's going to be one of my arrowheads. Maybe I'm going to move this over just a little bit. I like how that looks. Okay, so that's going to be one of my arrowheads. I'll need to replicate that around, but that will be the arrowhead that I'll add to the donut to make the arrows, but I also need another triangle here to cut away the gap before the next arrow tail. Okay, so I'm going to take this. One option would be to just copy and paste this and put it in front aligned with the old one, so that would work just fine. I think instead I'm going to take this and rotate it around a bit so that the tail is also aligned with the circle. So to move the center of the rotation, I also want to grab it and move it, but that's been giving me trouble. So what I tend to do is go and hover over the center where I want it, and I'm just going to click to move the center of rotation. Now as I start to drag, you can see this will go right along the circle, and I am just going to hold down Option so that I can, on the Mac or Alt on the PC, so I can create a copy as I go. You can see the double arrowhead there. And I'm going to only move this far enough such that it's going to cover the gap in between. I don't want any extra triangles left after I subtract this out, so I'm going to have it overlap the old one quite a bit. All right, so that's going to be my cutout for my tails. Now I can take both of these and rotate them around the circle to form my other four arrows. Now before I do this, there's another kind of order of operations that I'll remind you about. that if we decided to cut out our center circle at this point, so let me do that. So I'll highlight both circles. I'll do the minus front operation in the Pathfinder palette to create my donut. Here I run into some problems when I go to use the rotate tool. Okay, I'll select my triangles, I'll grab the rotate tool, and now when I want to move the center of rotation to the center of the circles, for whatever reason, Illustrator does not give me the little hover center indicator. So that's kind of a pain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that cutting out. I'm going to leave the center of the donut for now until I'm done with my rotations. So let's select the two triangles that I'm going to rotate, grab the rotate tool. Now you can see that center hover gets there. I'm going to click to move the center of rotation. Now this time I don't need to enter exact values like I have for some of the five-fold symmetric exercises we've done. This one, if I hold down Shift, it'll go 4 or 8 times around as the defaults for 45, 90 degrees. So I can hold down Option so that I'll make a copy when I let go, and Shift to make it at 90 degrees, let go. Then I will do transform again with the Command D or Control D on the PC for do it again, do it again, do it again. Now I've got all of my basic elements for constructing my arrows and my donut. So let's go ahead and now go back and subtract out the center of the donut with the minus front. Now I've got that. Now the next thing I want to do is to subtract out that little gap that's going to be between the tails and the head. So I'll hold down Shift and select only these front arrows that I'm going to subtract out. Now remember, the minus front operation works where it will subtract everything that's in front from the selected object in back. So I've got one object in back, multiple objects in front. I don't need to do any grouping or anything. If I had multiple objects in the back that I want to subtract something in the front, then I would have to create a compound path, or every once in a while grouping works. So I'm going to do minus front. Now you can see I've got my gaps. Now I can do the adding the arrowheads to the donuts, selecting all those triangles. Actually, I can just select everything. Sorry, select it all and hit Unite, and that does it all at once. Now I've got arrowheads, gaps. I'm really far along in my construction here. So now the main things that I have left to do is actually the rounding. So I want to round some of the fronts, the tails, and these inside corners on the arrows. I'm going to do these kind of separately, but making sure they match all the way around. So I go to my direct select tool so I can select only the certain nodes that I want to round. So I'll get these, remember I get these controls on any of the nodes that I select, but that's just one at a time, and they won't all match if I do just one at a time. So I'm going to hit Shift, hold down Shift while I select all of these point nodes. I'm going to do that rounding all at once. That looks good to me. Now let's go ahead and select all of the tails. Select those all at once. Now maybe these should all match the fronts. You can do what you want. I'm just going to do them separately just in case, so I can kind of judge what I think is a good curve. And now let's go ahead and select these back corner nodes on the arrows. I'm just going to give those a slight curve to them just to ease. Whoops. Redo. I just accidentally screwed up my selection, so I just have to go back, reselect those. These things happen. Okay, now I'll try to grab one of these circles again, and I'm just going to give a slight rounding to those guys to just ease that inside corner. Okay, now if I actually wanted to go in and round all of these really pointy bits just a little bit, you can do the funny thing of selecting every node with the direct select tool, and now any of these controls that you try to modify, it'll try to modify everything at once. A lot of these are pretty constrained, so you're not going to get much of a rounding, but I actually think that's kind of a nice look there. round out all those points just a tiny bit. All right, so now we only have two pieces left. One is the circle in the center, which we'll see how hard that is to get that centered properly, but the other one is the color. So I could modify the color here. These are all grouped after the unify or the subtract operations. I can't remember which. If I ungroup these, now I can select each of the arrows individually. I'm going to go with, let me see what I had here. I guess I had the darkest at the bottom. I think I might do the darkest at the top, actually. Now, I could easily use the HSB controls here to just control the brightness and control these one by one, make this one a little bit lighter, make this one lighter yet. So that's a very easy way to get the same hue and saturation level, so the same basic color and kind of grayness level, but have different brightnesses. Instead of that, though, I think I'm going to pick colors from the color guide. So I go over here, the base color that I picked, it picked a whole palette that goes with it. Now I'm going to select one of these, and let's just try this really dark. I'm going to go this next one, just kind of go in order here. And there I've got this nice gradation of color, all in the same hue. You could do any of those. All right, now we're going to try seeing how we can do this circle at the end. And this is one where it's going to be, we should have actually saved one of our construction circles from the beginning. What I'm going to do, though, is put this, let me move this off to the side. I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to regroup them. So if I go, I can right click and say group. I could have gone to object group and right click those. Now I'm going to use the alignment tools. I'm going to select both the circle and this bunch of arrows. I'm going to go to my align palette, and I want to align these with each other, but I don't want both of them to move. I want the arrows to stay where they were. I'll undo that. So the trick to that is to highlight both objects and then click once to pin down the one that you don't want to move. You can see the heavy line, selection line that goes around it. That one will be pinned. Now if I center right to left, center top to bottom, that gets me where I want to go. I can change this fill to my gray that I had. Let's just put a light gray circle there. I'm going to get rid of the stroke on that one. So no stroke. I want to send this to the back, so I'm going to right click, go to arrange, send to back. And now I just want to add some transparency, so I'm going to go to the transparency palette and drop this down a little bit so that I can see the circle going through the middle. And that was also a good reason to pick some darker colors to begin with, because now they'll look a little lighter when I add transparency. So there you go.